Yeah, fall back too close, you ain't even know me. Trust my brothers from way back from the north. It's me and the order, spend it like they owe me.
Hey everybody, we are back with another video. We're gonna go right back into speaking these archetypes. Let me turn this down so make sure y'all can hear me, because it's hot. Okay, I don't know where y'all are, but where I am, it's hot and it's humid for no reason whatsoever. All right, so we left off yesterday learning about the victim archetype. Today we are gonna tap into the prostitute, the guardian of faith. The act of prostitution is generally associated with selling one's body for money, but that is perhaps the least significant example of the prostitute archetype. The prostitute thrives most bountifully in subtle ways and in ordinary everyday circumstances. It comes into play most clearly when our survival is threatened. Its core issue is how much you are willing to sell of yourself, your morals, your integrity, your intellect, your word, your body or soul for the sake of physical security. The prostitute archetype also dramatically embodies and tests the power of faith. If you have faith, no one can buy you. If you have faith, you are not for sale in any kind of way. You know that you can take care of yourself and also that the divine is looking out for you. Without faith, however, you will eventually meet the price you cannot turn down. The majority of prostitutes continue to meet men and women who are either in bad marriages or in miserable jobs. Their inability to move out of their toxic environments is totally tied to economics. Women don't want to be middle-aged and single or lose their social status or have to support themselves, and so they stay in unhappy marriages. Men as well, but not often as women. However, both men and women say that they remain in jobs that make them miserable or sick, violate their ethics, or make them feel bad about themselves for the sake of financial security. All power, whether from lottery winnings or spiritual visions, will draw you some outside opponent who will try to buy, use, or contaminate you. Every time you make one step on your path of personal empowerment, you will meet someone who will buy or want to buy a piece of your soul to render you less powerful and themselves more powerful. A shadow characteristic of the human psyche in general is that we want to find the shortcuts in life, including shortcuts to our own empowerment. If we spot someone whose power appears as if it could be brought or shared, we will be attracted to it. Confronting the prostitute within you transforms this archetype into your guardian. It will watch over you and your relationships to faith. Think of the prostitute as the ally who puts you on alert every time you contemplate shifting your faith from the divine to the physical. Anytime you are in a crisis of faith, try to be mindful of your thoughts and fears. Name exactly what you are afraid of, especially those fears that try to talk you into compromising yourself in any way. The prostitute appears when you begin to believe that you could order your life if you just had the money to control the world around you and to buy just a bit of everyone in it. It appears when you stay in a relationship that is not good for you just because you don't want to be alone. It appears when you are asked to do something unethical or illegal for the good of the company of those around you. People who are meant to bring out the prostitute in you represent your most painful relationships, because prostitute interactions make us confront our fears of survival. They are often terrifying and humiliating. Some don't have enough faith to put their integrity before their mortgage or anything else of this physical, or their spiritual direction before promotions in the physical world. The prostitute archetype can act as a guardian that awakens you to situations in which you must decide to take your bed and walk. Once you get away from a circumstance that costs you too much money, energy, dignity, or time, lasting transformation is possible. Now, think very carefully about what you or when you agree to do for someone, and remind yourself that you can say no as well as you can say yes. The next archetype we're going to talk about is the saboteur. It's the guardian of choice. Like the prostitute and the victim, the saboteur or the sabotager archetype is a neutral energy within you that usually makes itself known through disruption. It can sabotage your efforts to be happy and successful if you are not aware of the patterns of thought and behavior that it raises in you. It can cause you to resist opportunities. It is the mirror that reflects your fears of taking responsibility for yourself and for what you create. This archetype may be the one most intimately connected to your ability to survival in the physical world. Fears of being without the basic needs in life, from food to home to a social personal network, often provides this archetype with the power to hunt you. You can silence it with acts of courage and by following your intuition. It serves you brilliantly as a gut instinct that directs you to take action based upon hunches rather than on rational thought. To learn to experience that voice, you must first respond to it. Only through response can you manifest the courage to expand your creative environment. Start with small choices, which may be life-transforming acts of will disguised as harmless impulses. The core issue for the sabotaging archetype is fear. Fear of inviting change into your life. Change that requires responding in a positive way to an opportunity to shape and deepen your spirit. Yet it is impossible to stop the process of change. Having power and using it necessitates change. And although many people want to have it all, they don't want to be all. All choices you make do not have the same potential to transform the environments of your life. Like going to meet a group of friends is not going to dramatically change your decision or your transformation in life as if it would if you were getting married or moving to another country or starting a business. The choice to respond to an inner voice that directs you to pursue your spiritual potential in life is obviously one that can rearrange your familiar world. Let's talk about living in the shadows. So, first of all, when you hear the prostitute archetype, don't always think of it as just someone who is selling themselves sexually. The prostitute archetype is more so, well, it's that too, but it's more so anytime you put yourself in a compromising position to where you give in to something that you know is not beneficial for you, but it's beneficial for the other person. When you are allowing yourself to be used, when you are being put up for someone else's personal gain, that's prostitute archetype energy. Okay, so living in the shadows. Although our archetype patterns are essential, they are essentially neutral. They do have both light and shadow aspects. The word shadow itself suggests secretively like a possible malevolent countenance that looms in the background of our nature, ready to do harm to others as well as to ourselves. A much more appropriate understanding of the shadow aspects of our archetypes is that they represent the part of our being that is least familiar to our conscious mind. Whether the shadow becomes our friend or enemy depends largely upon ourselves. So this lady, Mary Louise, she wrote, "The shadow is not necessarily always an opponent. In fact, it is exactly like any human being with whom one has to get along, sometimes by giving in, sometimes by resisting, sometimes by giving love, whatever the situation requires. The shadow becomes hostile only when it is ignored or misunderstood." The shadow aspects of our archetypes are fed by our paradoxical relationship to power. We are as intimidated by being empowered as we are being disempowered. That disempowerment is a threat to our well-being. It's easy to understand, at least at surface level. The shadow can be seen as unexplored power. It expresses itself through behavior that often sabotages our expressed wishes and images of ourselves. These complex aspects of our personalities filter into our behavior by outwitting our conscious minds, after which they often assume a dominant role. We frequently don't know why we do things we do or why we have to cope with inexplicable fears, and this leads to painful conflict when we have or we feel one way and we choose to act another, separating our mind and hearts. Living with mind and heart divided is like having two battles, each one fighting for authority over power and over our power of choice. When they isolate from each other, the heart and the mind are each handicapped. The mind tends to be more hyper-rational and the heart overly emotional. This imbalance of forces fragments our power, and when our nature is fragmented, it is vulnerable to being dominated by fear. Even when you know you are acting fearfully, you sometimes choose to be willingly ignorant about it. So it's like, even though I know I'm doing something and I'm scared, I'm going to just act like I don't know what's going on. Because if I don't know why I'm acting in a negative way, it's easier to excuse the behavior or blame someone else. But if I am aware, both emotionally and intellectually, that I am harming another being or myself, I not only have to hold myself accountable, I must also admit that I consciously choose to be negative. Same with each of you. At that point, you can no longer hide behind the state of confusion created by the split between the heart and the mind. So both are equally important. As long as your mind and heart lack a channel of clear communication, you will be confused about what to do with your life. As soon as you make contact with your life's passion, you are going to experience a kind of spiritual suffering until you act on that passion. That suffering is actually a form of divine motivation, urging you to pursue a more authentic life. Awareness of a greater truth adds time, pressure to your psyche and spirit, because the more you know, the faster you need to respond to that truth. This is called spiritual accountability. If you realize that negative judgment, including judgments about yourself, cause harm, then you must reevaluate your behavior as soon as you realize that you are being judgmental. You also need to recognize that you are justifying yourself and your actions. Judging others and creating excuses while knowing better are only 2 of the spiritual challenges that will arise as you work with your surviving and survival archetypes. The more aware you are of the demands of managing your consciousness, the fewer hiding places will be available in your psyche and soul for the shadow play of the child, the victim, the prostitute, the saboteur, all of those. This relationship between awareness and responsibilities also applies to your health. Once you become aware of how toxic anger or guilt is to your body and spirit, the consequences of these energies, poisons, become more pronounced than if you didn't know any better. If for no other reason than that, you now know their biological effects. This is a negative visualization in action. So, we just went over the archetypes of the prostitute, the saboteur, and also living in the shadows. I will come back tomorrow. I'll do another video. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on any of my social medias, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. My birthday is tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great day. Take a shot for me. Do whatever you do. If you don't drink, I don't know, drink a Coke. Anyway, y'all have a good day. Stay safe and love you.
Connected to you.